The slow start is not the verdict. The slow start is the curriculum. Myron Golden said this, and it really struck me because I have always been the slow learner. I've always had a slow start. And I'm using this word always. It's like, always, Rodney? Come on. That's a little much. Because a lot of us, we use the words in the wrong way. You always do this. I always. With the learning disabilities comes the really slow learning, the slow onboarding, if you will. And it's like, I get so frustrated with that. But you know what? How many of us don't have any kind of learning disability or anything like that? And yet, there seems to be this freaking forever slow grow, this slow, like, taking forever to get off the ground, to get ahead, to get where you want to be, or at least just where everybody else is. And I know the comparison, like, we're comparing ourselves to everybody else's best day, and we're comparing our average day to their best day. And I get that. But it's hard not to see that there is a disparity between where people are at our age and where we are. And so we'll try to start. I remember, like, when I was younger and I was, going through school and not getting good grades and not succeeding in school and eventually just flunking out of school altogether. That hit my ego hard. Like, I can't even do what everybody else does. And I've been making that comparison for a long time. And then, I'm going to go get a job. I'm going to work. That's what I'm going to do. And there was reward with that. But I was never able to progress in my jobs like everybody else did. Everybody else would get to progress. They'd get to advance. They'd get to, get promotions and make bigger pay. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't get to that place. And I'm thinking to myself, how many of us men, we've been working in the same job. We've been working really hard and doing everything. And it's just like, when is it going to be my turn? Or we'll start a business. And again, everybody else gets ahead. And I'm barely surviving. The tunnel, that slow start, is the curriculum. We're learning things and we're gaining understanding of things if we will frame this situation in the right way. I was tempted to say in a different way, but I'm going to use in the right way, because the framing we have right now, what's it doing to us? We're not getting benefit from this slow start, this forever tunnel. The tunnel's so doggone long, can't even see the light on the other end. Can't even see it. And the temptation to just quit and give up is so high, because I'm working so hard and not getting anything out of this. Like, I was thinking about my driving instruction. I was a driving instructor for several years, 16 years, not several years, a lot of years, 16 years. And it took me forever to get to a place of competency within my occupation as a driving instructor. In fact, the only thing that kept me from getting fired was that I was a part of a union, and I'd gotten to a point where it was much harder to fire me because I was basically doing the job. They got so frustrated with me and my inability to do my job to the level they needed me to, that they started dropping my hours significantly, hoping that I would quit. It took me forever. But what's interesting is that when I finally came into my own as a teacher, I was a very different kind of teacher than others in my position, other teachers. And I became a very highly liked teacher among my students. Now, I don't know, I don't know how to compare, because there was no comparison system within the school about which teacher was better and who was doing better. But my students requested me. My students appreciated what I was doing. That slow grind of hitting one wall after another wall after another as a teacher, and taking forever to get that job figured out, way slower than everybody else. I was the last teacher to learn how to teach from all the other instructors that started with me, started after me. I was the last. But I ended up having to figure things out in a way that nobody else had to. Nobody else had to figure out how to teach. They took the scripts. This school was heavy with scripts on how to introduce driving to a student. Memorize the scripts, do this, and you're doing your job. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I hated those scripts. I wasn't teaching. I wasn't communicating anything to those students. And so I had to wrestle with it, because I couldn't remember the script in the middle of traffic and intersections and keeping track of the student who didn't know how to drive. And I ended up developing a system that was very responsive and reactive to my students. No matter what the student was like, if the student was super gifted, I could mold myself to that student that was super gifted. If my student was learning disabled and really struggling with learning disability and anxiety, I could mold my class, mold myself to what they needed, because I had abandoned those scripts. They didn't serve me anyways. I couldn't deliver them. I stuck to the curriculum. I'm teaching you how to drive, but I had to shift away from the scripts. And then I actually ended up shifting away from the curriculum. Still going to teach you how to drive, but I'm not going to do it in the steps that they had laid out. I'm going to do it in the way that the student needs, because that was the only way that I could figure out how to get through this job of teaching someone how to drive. And I ended up being one of the top producing teachers. But it took me 6 years to get to that place where I was actually an asset to the company. And the last 10 years of my time with that company were amazing. I burned out, worked too hard trying to overcome my debts and stuff, but the slow start is the curriculum. Is it that we should look at our jobs? No, not our jobs. Hold on. Is it that we should look at the struggle that we have as the education? A doctor goes to school for 11 years. If you're a specialist, 14 years, 15 years? I don't know. Before you get the title of doctor. And then your business is after that. And you got to build your business after 11 years of education. I've been trying to overcome my poverty, and I didn't do well in school, and I didn't do well with work. I really struggled, and yes, I had the 16 years, but I never advanced. I was never able to get into management or being a teacher of teachers, never able to do that. I'm trying to overcome that by building something now, build a business, build a legacy, build something and create something. And I'm expecting to get the results that you get the results as quickly as when you have a job. When you get hired, boom, you're getting paid now. You just get paid. Well, if I'm looking for that kind of quick results in building and creating something, then maybe I've got the wrong mindset. And I'm not talking like I'm just trying to make a video here, so I'm making scripts to, no, literally, I've been so frustrated with how long it takes me to get to a place of being useful and productive and making money. But Myron Golden said that the slow start is the curriculum. That's the education. And maybe I've got to reframe and rethink about this. So I told my story about my driving instruction days and how long it took me, but then I became really good at the instruction part of it. I never got good at the paperwork. I never conquered that. Maybe that's what I got to do now. Maybe if we were to look at the slow start, like, the slow start of like 50 years of not being successful, there's a lot of education within that. A lot of hitting brick walls and getting it wrong and figuring it out and figuring out what does work and what doesn't work. And maybe that's what's going to help us be successful now, if we look at that time as a time of lessons, a time of learning, a time of growing, a time of figuring it out. And at 50, I'm growing? 50? No. But then who cares when we start, as long as we start? How long does it take a tree to get to a point of producing? How long does it take to a tree to come to a point of being useful to the economy? 60 years, 70 years, 110 years? Right? Forget about the environmental arguments. Just think about that. Like, maybe that reframing of how we look at this, it doesn't mean it's suddenly going to speed up. Like, okay, I've got it reframed, and now, oh, it's going to work out now. Now everything I start is going to be fast. No, it's still going to be slow, and we're going to have to pick our lane and really dedicate to it and get good. But there's just no speeding this up. And then just embracing that and treating that like a detailed, in-depth, extensive education. And use that for building where we're trying to go. Because if we have our goal and we know where we're trying to get to, and we're building and we take our time and be patient, the results will come and we'll be ready for them maybe. Maybe we'll be ready for them. So I'm thinking about Sean Cannell and how he talks about YouTube gurus, right? And they talk about how long it takes for a channel to get to a point of use, of productivity, of value. And that if we get things all at once, you go viral all at once, you're not ready for it, and you can't maintain it. You can't hold on to it. But if it takes us a long time to get, when it finally comes to us, we're ready. Yeah. Let's reframe this. We're not going to get any faster. It's not going to become fast at all. But when we get there, not if, when we get there, when it happens, we will be ready and we won't lose it. And we will have more in us to give to those that we are now serving with our businesses, with our jobs, with what we're creating. We can give from a great wealth, because we had to learn for so long till we got to that place of success. I'm just reframing. So I realize I'm not going to get faster. There is no overdrive. It's going to take time. But I will get there. We will get there. If we will treat this time of the long start as our education.